Alright, so it's time now for the epic conclusion.
Escape the
Citation needed.
dangers of Darkwater Cove.
Yep, welcome back to Ratchet.
Final chance to recover the
That's it.
star.
Welcome back.
But the courageous Captain Slag had no intention of going quietly. He took the Lumbax's female friend captive, which of course multiplies the drummer by, like, 4.
Preach! What have I told you about using math? That there's grounds for a plank walking.
Sorry, Captain. And now, the final chapter in our gripping saga. Events do not...
And yeah, another cutscene but just stops.
Weird.
The audio, again, it's probably because of the whole digital thing. As I mentioned way back in our Prince of Persia Forgotten Sands HD run, digital-only titles had this weird effect, at least on my PS3, where if they, again, are digital-only, they would add loading times or autosave, make the game stop dead in its tracks, or occasionally fuck around with the audio mixing.
This is your last chance, Slag. Just hand over Talwyn and the star.
Tis a fool who thinks
Where's
he
the
can...
music?
Will you stop calling me that, you sexist pig?
He might be wanting to return the
I feel like
favor.
there
That's
should be
your
music
name.
for this cutscene.
Ready the locker, Davy! Slag's got one more for ya!
Okay.
I've been waiting
Alright,
for this
so
day a long
the
time.
entire final level consists mostly of the final boss fight against the Slag and Darkwater Gestalt, but it's proved in the meantime with some minor sections of you of Ratchet having to, you know, find Talwyn and free her. So,
Cool.
thankfully at the very least they try to actually give it a bit of a spectacle for the final confrontation. You'll be able to see. So it's not just, you know, a more run-of-the-mill, you know, type of boss fight. So again, it's worth noting that there was some level of effort, but I tried to do some research in the meantime. There is a particular video of the making of a bunch of these games that includes also interviews for people like DJ Pixman. And they mentioned how, you know, this game is considered basically a failure in Insomniac's eyes for, you know, obvious reasons. Like, it was a gambit that they took and it did not pay off.
So, failure in the sense that I guess they didn't think it was good, because I doubt the goal was for this to sell 1 million.
But it wasn't successful enough, you know, with the idea of let's make shorter, you know, smaller games with a less, you know, less much of a budget and, you know, selling them at a smaller price, so it doesn't load us with too much work. I guess that was the mentality.
I guess I hate to say it, but it kind of feels like they'd set themselves up to fail. Like, okay, look, a shorter title is one thing, but that shouldn't mean that it feels cheaper.
I think it worked.
If you get what I mean.
The only major other example that I can think actually did work out is when the company that Koji Igarashi founded after he left Konami subcontracted Inti Creates to make two pixel art spin-offs of Bloodstained, which have a more relatively shorter, you know, lifespan. They're sold at a smaller price while waiting for, you know, Ritual of the Night, and I think that worked out for the most part. Also,
okay, here's
I'll give this game something in terms of shorter games. It's a better one than Force Unleashed 2.
For once, it's you who's
that's the problem, Reeves. Force Unleashed 2, people were not even expecting that to be short. They were expecting it to be on par with the first game, but no.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, for, you know...
Okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, for the trick is that, again, Slag creates a stand, no, it's not even kidding, of dark water, which, when every time the sword hits the ground, has organ sound effects. Okay.
It's time you met some of the crew, lads.
But here's the other kicker that is from that interview with TJ Pixman. Again, I'll try to, you know, search in between parts properly the video and try to watch it in full, but apparently get this. You know that sequence that you guys also noted where in order to pass through a door, Captain Slag, it's like the Slag on a stick, has to sing, quote-unquote, I'm a little teapot. That was an idea of
Yes.
TJ Fixman, the idea that, you know, for something that would be rather serious, they put just a nursery rhyme that's very stupid, you know, and that's the comedy of the situation. Again, whether you like it or not, that's, you know, comedy subjective and everything. What TJ Fixman was not expecting is that apparently, at least at the time this game was made, because 15 years have passed, so, you know, things might have changed, the nursery rhyme, I'm a Little Teapot, was copyrighted. Was not public domain.
God.
So Insomniac actually received a visit from a bunch of lawyers. Thankfully, they managed to settle things very amicably. There was no animosity and everything, and they didn't. At least Insomniac apparently did not have to pay that much in terms of royalty, especially because this game is still available right now to be downloaded in full. So you know they settled in. But again, TJ Fixman basically says, here's your lesson, you know, for every aspiring writer, you know, for comedies. Don't go assuming that nursery rhymes are automatically in the public domain.
Okay, I need to remember which show was it that had I'm a Little Teapot copywritten at the time.
No idea. Maybe it was. I don't even know, you know, how it's possible, because usually nursery rhymes and poems derive from, you know, Middle Ages stuff that is just got, you know, at most it would be something like, say, from the Renaissance period or, you know, the French Revolution type of era, at least what I can think of. So this caught me by surprise too. So
Like, the closest I can think of is the Jeopardy theme, but I've always considered that more of a pastiche of the Teapot theme rather than the Teapot theme fully.
Yeah,
on.
when Jeopardy, when the recent Jeopardy launched around here in the UK, one of my folks who was watching it kept thinking, "Is that the My Little Teapot theme?"
yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
and bear in
based on
mind,
it.
that particular this version's the first time we actually had the proper theme, as opposed to we have the Jeopardy theme at home.
Pretty much, yeah. But like, I mean, you know, I do get why copyright law was a thing, but I love how with the bastardized version of copyright law, it can pretty much be summed up as a kid going, "No, those are my toys that only I get to play with, even if I'm not really using them." Like, holy cow.
still a bit hilarious. Also, one of the
Yes.
one of the things that was in the slideshow that I did pick, you know, doing that interview with TJ Fixman is that apparently a negative point listed for this game is that apparently it got a 75 score on Metacritic. Like if in 2000, if at the end of the 2000s that was considered actually bad, a negative result, I can't even imagine what it is right now.
Okay. To Insomniac's credit, I'm guessing this is them holding themselves to, like, a high, pristine standard, you know, trying to be like the Pixar of gaming where, you know, up until Cars, for the most part, the Rotten Tomatoes scores for Pixar films were always high. At least, I'm guessing that's why they would consider 75 a failure in that regard. And that being said, though, it sounds like that video you caught a clip from is, like, partially like a full expose on practically the history of a series, at least involving TJ Fixman.
This is why I want to give it a better look, you know, later on, at least in between parts, to see if there's something more interesting to gather through. Okay then, bye.
May he rest in peace. These guys too. What? Okay, they reacted, but still, though.
I guess this is what the game. What the fuck?
Sir, did you mean to give up like that?
10 out of 10, working as intended.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that being said, I'm kind of not surprised that they would view this game as a failure, though. Again, part of me wonders if they were truly trying. Like, I mean, look, it's one thing to make a shorter game, but it's another thing to make a short but obviously cheap game. Like, again, I can't believe I'm making this comparison, but Mighty Gunvolt Burst, a spin-off of Mighty No. 9, which turned out to be much more loved than the actual Mighty No. 9, that one is that pixelated and relatively short, but beloved because the quality in there is actually good.
No more running,
This-
Slag. Give me the Fulcrum Star.
I'm just not feeling the usual Ratchet and Clank quality, which is saying something because even with Deadlocked, even with even with Size Matters, and yes, even with Secret Agent Clank, I at least did feel that they cared. This is the first time I legit do have to wonder if they did care, which is a shame because it's a Ratchet and Clank pirate game. That should practically sell itself.
Alright, final round time. This is it, you know, I need to say the word and everything.
That being said, I'll give him credit that at least this final boss sequence has some good spectacle.
It's kind of like how in the Platinum games, Legend of Korra games, we bother to, you know, create a bit of a set piece with the final boss.
You know, the Platinum Korra game is frustrating because that one definitely shows a lot of hints that it could have been amazing, but
I'm still planning on eventually doing the 3DS Fire Emblem clone version. From what I checked, apparently the story is virtually the same, so it's nothing. Maybe there's expanded dialogue upon, but otherwise it's more about how can you actually make a strategy, you know, a tactical RPG out of Korra.
Especially if it's Fire Emblem based, you would probably need to use a lot more characters in that regard.
Yeah, again, this is why I'm curious to at least give it a try.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, you know, like the Platinum Korra game though, comparing it to this though, I feel like there's a lot of similar issues here. They have great promise, they do show good points, but the thing is they're dragged down by the experience altogether. Mind you, I do feel like I could probably have more fun with this than with the Korra game, because the Korra game has a lot more gameplay issues, but nah, they do share that similar thing where...
We're done.
Fight's done.
Fulcrum Star is mine!
Me buddy, look what you've done!
Oh, shut up, you miserable rat, for I chain ye to the keel! By me deathless sword,
Look at this rusty
be my
boot.
body!
Is this really what you wanted? Here we go again.
I'll save ya, Captain!
There we go.
And that's going to be his trophy, his head.
Again.
And so, after several lucky shots and a few cheat codes,
Theo, you've been cheating?
Sure, whatever you say, Pete.
Darkwater. Aye,
That's right, we're going to
Going
cheat.
to the bathroom was far too awkward.
The Lumbacks returned
Too much
to
information,
Holyfarm
Slag.
to claim his boaty, the location of his missing
Alright.
first mate.
Hopefully, finally, we'll be able to contact Clank with this. I would like to mention that the following cutscene, back when this game came out, was actually basically a huge reveal and basically the entire selling point for this, so please enjoy.
So basically, this game translates to please buy into the please
Crack in
buy
time.
crack in time.
So what have the Zoni done, Clank?
If x is the coefficient of a squared minus the improbability of the hypotenuse at absolute zero, the Bogon index of the denominator must be equal or lesser to the number of bees in your bonnet.
Don't worry, sire. The doctor
Oh, that's nice. Wait, what do you mean the doctor? Oh. Oh no. I guess it was inevitable. The
David, the
eventual
tenants
return
did quite a bit of work on.
Dr. Nefati
He's okay.
Sure is. And that was
You
Armin
ruined my
Shiberman's.
entrance!
And that was Armin Shiberman's line for the game. Easiest paycheck. And by the way, that's it. No epilogue, we just get a final narration for
With the
Rusty
location
Cheeks.
of his missing mate in hand, our hero took off into space. Little did he know, the greatest challenge he would ever face lay just ahead.
Well, till the next game.
Want to hear it again?
I didn't want to hear it the first time, ye mangy old
Well,
bucket
hey,
of
at least
balls.
this time Captain Slag is actually alive.
I'll
So,
quit yelling when ye
net
find
gain.
me a new body. Now start rowing.
Lads miles away.
And basically now we get the excuse to have Robin at Kindles having to say row multiple times. I can feel his frustration as he has to say each one of them. My god.
Well, hey, at least it's better than the time when he had to smolder with dull rage.
Generic rage. Anyway, that's it. That's Quest for Booty. No refunds, kids. So...
I'm resisting the easy quip to say that this game was booty.
James, what about you?
It's fine. It's probably one of the biggest. I mean, I can't even call it a nothing burger because some stuff did happen, just not a whole lot. I mean, no wonder it is digital only, except in Europe, except in Britain.
I'm guessing that this was... I guess your reward was getting to know that Nefarious was involved ahead of time,
remember,
assuming that a crack in time tries to treat his involvement like a surprise.
You can just watch it on YouTube.
Well, back then, with...
back in the old days, not so much.
It wasn't as common to be able to do it, and obviously the quality was more, shit, so...
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Oh, hi, Niels. It's fine, just kind of minimal.
Alright, Jova.
Wow, Steve Blum was in this game, and I did not recognize his voice at all.
It's minor pirates or, the people of Ulefar.
True. Again, part of Steve Blum's valiant quest to keep that Guinness World title of being the most roles in voice acting. Anyway... this is the kind of game that I would say, if you got it for free, bundled in with something, it's perfectly worth its value. In fact, it's a fun little romp. That said, if you paid full price for this, digital or, God help you, physical, yeah, I feel like even for $15, this game's a little overpriced. Like, I'd put it at 10 max, on average, maybe 6, because... yes, I get the idea of it being a shorter game, but it feels like a cheap game. Like, I feel like the idea should have been to have it be short, but still give it the usual quality you expect from Ratchet & Clank. But here, we get stilted stuff like Talwyn just awkwardly following us around and not much else to do. Shoot, it feels like some voice lines are even missing at times, and again, the cutscene editing at times is just downright sloppy with how they cut off early. The gameplay seems for the most part fine and fun enough, but as you can imagine, by this point in gaming, there was starting to be focus on more than just the gameplay, presentation, story, art, and whatnot. That's not to say that those never factored in, but by the time of the 7th gen of gaming, well, games were starting to be seen as like full-on projects rather than just something that could be sustained by good gameplay. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay is still the most important part, but it can only do so much. And it's such a shame because this is a Ratchet & Clank pirate game. I kind of feel like the opportunity was missed. In fact, shoot, I feel like Tools of Destruction, which didn't have pirates as the main focus, did a better job utilizing the pirates. Again, not to say that there's nothing good, it's just... I think that they, whenever they do stuff that's not big and heavy, stick to it being a spin-off, but not super short like this, which, maybe that's just Insomniac's weakness. Like, they're good at doing bigger, full, complete games, but when it's doing, something that's trying to go small, I guess for whatever reason, they miss the mark. Which is probably why we have not seen an experiment like this since.
Or for other titles, for that matter.
That being said, if you got this packaged and bundled, give it a try. That said, unless you're a gigantic Ratchet & Clank nut, you can skip
there you go.
this
The quest
one.
continues in fall 2009. Buy a cracking time, please.
It's autumn.
But yeah, no, again, it's a fine game, but this is sadly one of the Ratchet & Clank games I'm gonna have to say you only get if you're like a super fan, or again, unless you got it bundled or something.
Alright.
Theo.
Yeah, that leaves me. Honestly, the biggest thing that I can say about this game is that it has still the idea of being realized to its full potential. Because even other short experiences that are supposed to be spin-offs of other titles, like say God of War Ascension, for example, still had enough of a depth in their mechanics, so that you could still enjoy it. Like I said, also to make a confrontation with DLC episode. God of War Ragnarok, the Valhalla, free update. Again, the fact that it was a free update always was a bonus, but let's assume hypothetically that it was also potentially, paid DLC, $15 as well. That recontextualizes the game with a full idea and with a roguelike experience that, yes, it recycles assets, but it does provide enough original material with its story to actually, be interesting, and makes the experience enough varied from the base game so that, you feel that if you spend money, it would be justified enough to play that. In this case, however, not only we get a literal watered down version of the gameplay from Tools of Destruction. You get a fraction of the arsenal already pre-packaged, no upgrade whatsoever, no sellers. We don't get the Gramos nor Gadgetron vendors, the story is technically fine. Even the humor, I argue, is fine for the most part. Nothing that is considerably lower than the standards of Ratchet and Clank. It's just that there's not enough in this game. It's an idea for a test of a game, but it needs meat attached to the bone. This is just literally a bone thrown at the fans. And again, as I said, in a time of big starvation like it was at the end of the 2000s, yes, I definitely get it that this would be seen as actually a blessing, for Sony IPs. But I'm sorry, we needed a bit more with this. Again, that being said, if it had expanded properly, I would put it on the same level of Tools of Destruction, because at the end of the day, it has the same engine, the same kind of roster of characters, roughly, and a neat idea as a concept. I wouldn't even mind the idea of being stuck on just one planet, because as a proper spin-off, the idea of Ratchet being stuck on a planet and having to deal with, the stuff that it's there until he finds a way to get back up, kind of like in Pikmin, so to speak. Not necessarily a survival component, but with an idea of just being a set of locations that are not space-themed. That's not too bad of an idea for a spin-off, but again, this is just clearly the team trying to experiment with a few new gimmicks and see what is stuck. And what it mostly stuck was just the Omni Wrench stuff, I can tell you that. And like we're about to find out also, this game gets summed up in one sentence at the very beginning of A Crack in Time, and as I mentioned, only the plot point of the Fulcrum Star is still kept with another passing mention, but that's kinda it. Rusty Pete and Captain Slag do return as part of a radio show, like I mentioned. Rusty Pete will also return in Ripped Apart. It's more complicated than that, trust me. But Talwyn instead gets unceremoniously dropped. Ratchet mentions that she just gave, Ratchet and Quark the coordinates to go to their next destination, and occasionally she interacts a bit with some of the radio show stuff. But that's kinda it, so we'll see when she pop-ups next. But for the time being, tune in for the next time, where time is actually the appropriate word, because it's time to find out the bigger scope of Clank's mission and being, as Ratchet tries to rescue him and face the destiny of the Lombax in A Crack in Time. See ya.
See you then.